Greetings! I am Herbert Erpaderp, and today is Wednesday, and you know what that means. That's right, tomorrow is Thursday, and I'm here to answer questions and respond to comments. This fortnight, instead of having all the colours as background video, I've got some video I took with my phone at Oz Comiccon the weekend before last. Top Bunk Productions suggested using the turntable clips from my videos as background video for Ask a Herbert Erpaderp, and that's not a bad idea. I might do that next time I've got nothing else to use. The video I did get at Comic-Con isn't very good, mostly owing to the fact that it was just my phone in my hand with nothing to stabilize it as I walked around, but there were still some pretty cool costumes, so it's still worth showing. If I go to the Supernova Con later in the year, I'll probably plan ahead and put some effort in and try to get some better video there. Last fortnight I asked for feedback regarding the volume of my videos, and the response seems to be a bit mixed. A lot of people are saying the audio is fine, and some say it's a bit soft. Nobody is saying it's too loud. I'm just going to mix the volume a little bit louder than I was previously. I guess it's not such a huge issue, but if my videos are a little louder, those who find them quiet won't have to turn the volume up so much, and will be less likely to have their ears obliterated by loud ads and things like that. Anyway, moving along. I shall now answer some questions. Jacob says, do the points I got come with a cookie? Sure. Here's your cookie. Oh no! It's falling into my mouth! Oh no! Oh, the horror! No! The delicious, delicious horror. Just the worst. I'm sorry. Pug says, yay, I'm famous now. And Martin Strickfuss says, are you a real pug? To which Boon Gaming YT replies, we'll never know. Guys, clearly he's a real pug. You can see him in the picture. Please don't ruin this for me. A3 Boys says, have you ever witnessed a dust storm since you live in Australia? If so, how long did it last? I have, once, a few years ago. They're not really common at all where I live. I guess it can get kind of dusty when everything's all dead and dry, but there's only been one time I can remember there was an actual dust storm. And even then, it wasn't really that bad. I woke up pretty late one day and it was all orangey brown outside. There weren't any violent winds or anything like that. It was actually kind of calm. A bunch of dust got in the windows that were open, unsurprisingly, and everything outside had an orange-brown layer of dust. I'm pretty glad that it's an uncommon occurrence here though. Speaking of dust, Al-Dar, comrade, that's what it is, Al-Dar. Can you ever do dust tactics? I have thought about it, and the models look really cool. Weird World War stuff like that with mechs and crazy tanks is something that really tickles me. It's kind of like a bridge between the real world and sci-fi worlds, and I really like that. Somewhat related, Zahuala says, what's your thoughts on Conflict 47? I'm more likely to get into Conflict 47 than Dust Tactics. I say this without really knowing the rules of either game, but I think Conflict 47 would be a better choice for me because of its compatibility with bolt action. Scale-wise I'm not so sure, but I think both games are meant to be 28mm scale. There's a pretty good chance I'll pick up some of the models for Dust Tactics just because they're cool. I'm more likely to get Conflict 47 models and actually play with them, though neither are really a high priority for me to be spending money on at the moment. On my Italeri Panzer 3 video, the Agile Aardvark says, German pro tip, Ausf is an abbreviated Ausführung. Don't just say Ausf, please don't. He's provided a link with pronunciation too. Also, I'm pretty sure the thing on the side is a disassembled barrel cleaning kit. Nice build. I could watch your videos for hours while building models at the same time. Really relaxing and informative. Thanks. I did know that Ausf is an abbreviation for Ausführung, but I didn't know there was an issue just saying the shortened version. I've heard a saying about German not having silent letters, and if they have a letter there, it's because they intend for it to be said. I guess I just figured that if it's not there, then it doesn't need to be said. Also, my German pronunciation is garbage. It pleases me greatly that people enjoy my videos and get something out of them. I've always really enjoyed watching videos or streams while I work on models, and it's cool that others are doing that with my videos too. Some dude has similar sentiments in a comment on my Flames of War Grimballs Beasts infantry painting video. He says, keep up the great work, you inspire me to do modeling. That is awesome. I really want to inspire people to build models and share my enjoyment of the hobby with everyone. I'm really more of a modeler than a wargamer, and I think this is a great hobby. and one of the best things is that anyone can take part. Mr. Elliptific says, "Lol, do you have at any stage a freaking clue what you are doing?" Nope, not a clue. Jake Painter says, "Awesome work as always. Question. How long are you waiting between coats?" Maybe a quick tips topic. I'm not sure if this is something that really needs its own video, but I could be wrong. The time I wait between coats varies. Sometimes I paint a colour and then it could be days before I add the next layer, but that's more me leaving it to do other things and not something that the paint needs. Acrylic paints dry really quickly, especially when they've been airbrushed, so you can generally apply additional coats over them pretty soon. If you're painting a few models, the paint you apply to the first model will usually be dry by the time you're done with the last one. You can usually paint pretty quickly like that if you want. Washes generally take a bit longer to dry, so unless I'm applying more wash over them, I normally wait a while until they're dry before putting anything else over them. It is fairly obvious when they're dry though. I have always heard that you should leave primers for at least a day after applying them so they cure properly. I usually leave primed models sit for longer than that anyway. I usually try to prime a bunch of things all at once because I don't have a permanently set up airbrushing area. I also like to leave clear coats to dry for a fairly long time too, usually overnight. Painting with enamels is a bit of a different beast. I don't really have any experience applying colours with enamel, but I expect they take longer to dry like the weathering enamels I use do. Hopefully that's helpful. Somewhat related, Peldira Studio says on my Grimball's Infantry video, "I would have been more curious to know what Vallejo colours you would use for them as I got all my paints from Vallejo. I am a little colourblind, so knowing exactly what colours from Vallejo to use will really help me. I got an idea, but it would be great to know some Vallejo variants to the colours you used. I had intended to do some comparisons using paints I have on hand, but I went to find something similar to the M43 Uniform Green Olive, and it turns out I don't have anything from Vallejo that would be close to an exact match. I have Model Air Olive Green, which is a lot darker and less browny coloured, and Uniform Green, which is much brighter. I also have Reflective Green, which is probably the closest colour I have, and I'd say if you add a tiny bit of some kind of brown to it you could get it closer to the AK version. For me this would be close enough as it is, especially when you consider the highlighting and washes that would go over the top of it. I didn't really have any time to do any research on the subject, but some quick looking on Google suggests that Vallejo US Dark Green might be pretty close. I've not really painted US uniforms before, so that would explain why I don't have it. Thing is, you really don't need to use this exact colour. As long as you have something reasonably close, in my opinion, it'll be fine. As for what is and isn't reasonably close, well, that's really for you to decide. Anyone that gives you an exact, specific, definite shade of paint to represent all uniforms is full of garbage. The Vallejo version of US Field Drab looks pretty close, though it is a tiny bit darker. The Vallejo version of US Olive Drab, not so close. You can see the Vallejo version is much darker. These colours will all look different depending on what they're applied over and how thin you apply them. A thin coat over black primer will look different to these examples on white paper. There are all kinds of conversion charts and things out there that you can use for the many brands of paints. In my experience, they can be a bit hit and miss, because paint recipes change and the way people see colour varies, especially if they're looking at pictures online. Quite often, I just try colours to see if I will like them. I do try to get them to look accurate to what the object should look like for the most part. I use my own eyes to determine if I'm satisfied with how close I got. I do have a lot of colours at my disposal though, which is pretty handy when it comes to trying a few different similar colours. There is a whole lot of confusing information out there regarding colours. In my opinion, just trying things out yourself and seeing what you like is best. And definitely don't be afraid to mix colours to get them closer to what you want. The Agile Aardvark says, "This week's pro tip. Latex vinyl nitrile glove for the hand not holding the airbrush. Saves so much time trying to scrub the paint residue from the crevices beside your fingernails and your hand in general. In fact, reduces it to none. Also keeps greasy fingerprints off. Trust me, your hands produce enough skin fat to leave fingerprints. They are there, you don't have to see them, to change the way the paint adheres to and interacts with the surface. This is actually good advice, though I don't do this simply because I've always found gloves to be really uncomfortable, so I only wear them if I really have to. And I've never really had that much trouble getting the paint off my skin. Primer is the worst, it stays on the fingernails pretty good, but I don't usually have a big issue with it and it can be scratched off. The fingerprints on models is a good point though. I do have fairly oily skin. The main reason I attach my models to things like shot glasses and other holders for painting is so that I can avoid touching them without the need for gloves, and that works for me for the most part. I do still sometimes accidentally touch half-painted models while moving them about the place, but having them stuck to shot glasses helps with that too. This was quite a long comment, and the second part is pretty relevant to the previous comment from Peldera Studio. This is exactly how I feel about historical colours, so I figured it was worth reading out. Nothing is ever 100% colour accurate to something that happened 80 years ago. All it takes is one of the guys washing the uniform using too much detergent, or the factory producing it to fuck up slightly with the mixing, and they all get a few nuances lighter. A few days out in the dirty wild, and the uniforms look different again. A few weeks in bright sunshine, and the colours significantly fade. Same for time spent close to the ocean and its salty air. The company producing the uniforms changing pigment, because the one they usually use is hard to get during wartime, equals change in colour. A platoon changing the issued part of clothing to something more comfortable they bought or found somewhere, different colour altogether. Even if you get a sample of a real uniform now, it isn't really the same colour it was when it was worn in World War II, due to fading and discoloration in almost a century. Unless it was stored in a dark, temperature-controlled vacuum chamber for the whole time, which I doubt. Paint it the way you like and be happy with it. I surely am. It's your hobby. So with the AK Interactive Green I spoke about earlier, it's not that important to get an exact match. Getting close to it is fine, as long as it looks good to your eyes. All the things the Agile Aardvark mentioned are factors, as well as things like lighting. Colours will look different under different lighting, and wet uniforms will be a different colour to dry ones. There are so many variables. Some people get really serious about exact colour shades, and that's fair if it's your thing. I do find it pretty funny when people get all angry about other people using what they perceive as the wrong colours though. Not that it's all that common really, thankfully. I do like to try and get my models looking close to realistic, and I often try to find references and painting guides to get ideas from. There's a lot of conflicting information out there though, so I just use them as a rough guide as I try different things out to see if they look right to me. That might be enough rambling about colour for now. Fog of War says, nice paintwork and good video. This is why there are no painting videos on Fog of War. Other people like you do a much better job. My British infantry are brown, just brown. I do like the look of strong tone and dark tone washes. I'll try some of those. Maybe they will texture the brown. I don't think there's anything wrong with doing just a simple paint job if that's what you want. I mean, it's better than just bare plastic. You could easily get good results with some of the washes. Maybe with a dry brushing of the base coat again over the top, and you get a reasonable look for little effort. I think it's likely that there are people out there that would like to see your painting efforts. Maybe you could do a series of videos as you progress with painting and trying out new things like the washes. Or even videos about quick, simple, just get it coloured and on the table style paint jobs. Not that you have to, of course. Personally, I enjoy seeing people's efforts at all levels. Ethan Ton says, what kind of detail brushes do you use? They look effective and stay in their sharp shape. Mine always seem to wear out quickly. I usually use this brush, the Wargamer Insane Detail Brush from the Army Painter. It has stayed good for a pretty long while. I also have another smaller brush from the Army Painter. It's called the Psycho, which I think is just a bit silly. I also use these Red Sable Kolinsky brushes from Creative Models. I've got a few different sizes of these, including one that's the same size as the Psycho. I've had them for a while, but I remember them being fairly cheap, at least in comparison to something like Winsor & Newton brushes. I don't really have a particular brand that I'm loyal to. That's not really my personality at all, and I'm not super picky about brushes. I can't really comment on their quality compared to the likes of Winsor & Newton, but I like them and they have kept nice sharp tips. If your brushes are wearing out quickly, it might be in how you're using them. Are you rough with your brushes? I tend to be pretty gentle with my fine detail brushes. My larger brushes seem to wear out a bit quicker because I do tend to be a bit rougher with them, doing silly things like using a stabbing motion to get paint into gaps rather than using a brushing motion. Also, it's probably a bad practice, but I know a lot of people do it. When I paint, I often stick the brush between my lips to reshape the tip to a point. Maybe that helps. Harry Davies says, I would have said to paint the half tracks as you might mislay your crew. That does seem like a good idea. I shouldn't lose them though. I've left them glued to the popsicle sticks and shot glasses. And I put the guys on the popsicle stick in this here drawer for safekeeping. I have lost figures before though, and it's really annoying. Boar Harms says, are you going to paint the tanks and half tracks next to finish the Grimballs Beasts box set? The next thing I'm going to paint from Grimball's Beasts will be the Pershings, then the Shermans, and finally the half-tracks. That won't be the next painting video I do though, I have something else up my sleeves for that. That's right, I'm going to be painting my upper arms. Just kidding, or am I? Gerwin Steenbergen says, can you also review some German gun teams? Just want to see your response to them. I will do that someday. I don't actually have any German infantry or guns for Flames of War yet, just tanks. You would never guess I really enjoy tanks a lot. I will definitely have a look at some of the German plastic gun teams though. On last week's Herbert Erpaderp's Quick Tips video, Raptoricus says, for armor try Perfect Plastic Putty. It's a water-soluble acrylic filler that will give a really fine, smooth result, and it's much easier to sand compared to epoxy if you need to. I've never heard of Perfect Plastic Putty, but it really does tickle my enjoyment of alliteration. I think I may need to pick some up. Actually, I really should get a hold of a few different putties and fillers, so I can do a comparison of a whole bunch of them. I have been meaning to have a look at the Vallejo plastic putty too. If anyone has any suggestions for other putties or fillers, let me know. Here's a comment on a really old gaming video. Never Ending Ong says, at 2 minutes 8 seconds, kill death ratio 9/11. Are you suggesting I did 9/11? Illuminati confirmed. Zurian says, me, I like rubber tracks. Given they're not one-part running gears with tracks, God bless Trumpeter, Plastic Soldier Company and Italeri and some others too, but I almost smashed a Hetzer for link and length. You're weird. Well, to be fair, I do totally see the appeal of rubber band tracks. I would be into them if they weren't such a pain to work with. I almost always end up frustrated with them because they're either too tight or too loose or they come apart easily. I will admit they can look pretty good when they do work properly though. I'm actually fairly happy with the ones on the Trumpeter T3485 I built if I don't look too closely and see the gaps in the tracks along the bottom. Of course, link and length tracks can be frustrating as hell too. Cooper Hamlin says, paratroopers, more like parapoopers, cause they, shit themselves when they jumped out of the plane? I don't know, someone make a better pun. Well, at least you tried. I've got nothing. The Big Boy says, do you have any interest in motorsports, like F1 and the 24 Hours of Le Mans? I'm not really interested in motorsports in general. I have seen figure-8 car racing before and that was pretty damned cool. I guess I like it when there's chaos and silly things happening, but otherwise motorsports don't really do a whole lot for me. Unless you count the tank biathlon, in which case I am definitely interested. JK says, good vids, thanks. How is the Battle Beetle doing? PS, I love it when you say your name. I don't see why you would love that. Herbert Erpaderp is a perfectly sensible name. The Battle Beetle is doing okay, I guess. I am working on it pretty slowly. Here's what I have so far. Not much at all, as you can see. I think I'll add some more colours to it later today, when this video is rendering. And finally, Mr. Nothing MN delivers this sick burn. He says, you suck. Aw shit, you sure got me there. Well, that's about it for the questions this week. I need to be rushed to the burn unit, so I'll make the rest of this quick. I've noticed that I'm getting perilously close to 2,000 subscribers, which is amazing. I want to thank each and every person that has subscribed over the course of my being a YouTubesman. I'm not going to do a competition or a giveaway or anything like that to celebrate, mostly because I wasn't prepared and I'm a bit lazy, but I do want to say a huge thank you to all of you. Now I would like to give a shout out to my newest patron, Ralph Fenstermaker. Thanks for being awesome and for your support, Ralph, it's really great. If you would also like a shout out in Ask a Herbert Erpaderp like Ralph got, or you want to see my videos a little bit early, please consider helping to support my channel over at patreon.com/HerbertErpaderp. You can get there by clicking the Patreon logo on screen or the link in the description. As always, if you have any questions you want me to answer in Ask a Herbert Erpaderp in 2 weeks' time, leave them in the comments section below. If you liked this video, show it by clicking the thumbs up button. If you think I suck, click the thumbs down button. But please be gentle. I've clearly been very badly burnt today already. I shall return soon once I'm out of the burn unit. So until then, happy modelling and thanks for watching. Farewell.